Hello and welcome to episode 161 of The Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam,
I'm Sahil.
and today I got to see Myles Straw in person drive in the go-ahead run in the ninth, then drive in the tying run in the ninth, then score the go-ahead run in the ninth at a minor league baseball game. So I am, having a great time.
Yeah, you cannot put a price on seeing Myles Straw do that. I love that so much. It's interesting because I've been playing a lot of the show. And in my franchise mode, I was playing the Indians the other day or the Guardians the other day. And Myles Straw is the starting shortstop for the Guardians in the my franchise mode. Um, I don't really know how that happened, but there you go.
Yeah, there you go. I also got to see, and you can see a video of it in the Clegg Discord. Um, I saw John Kenzie Noel hit a missile, home
Ooh,
run, straightaway center field. So that was exciting. Um,
he looks good. It's weird because he
yeah,
was like
he's a
relevant.
big dude.
What?
He's a big dude.
Yeah, it's weird because if I felt like he was relevant for like a stretch there, like end of 2021 or 22, like sometime over the last couple of years, then he kind of like fell off completely, and now all of a sudden he's just like reemerged. Um, I don't know where he fits on that Guardians roster because I think he's a first baseman. Am I right about that?
He is a first baseman.
Okay, because like obviously Josh Naylor's killing it, and they have Kyle Manzardo, so I don't really know where the long-term fit is for Noel there, but I guess as long as he's playing well, you know, hopefully he keeps it up.
Yeah, no, he's not currently rostered in our league. Um, he's kind of a borderline guy, I'd say. He'd probably be one of the first five or so guys I added, but he's not currently rostered. And then how can we forget Christmas Day 2021? EBO trades obviously El Garcia and their 2023 first, which was the fourth pick in the draft. That became Elijah Green. They made that trade for uh, Kyle Lewis, John Kenzie Noel, and their own 2024 second, which became Imanaga. And I guess they kept that pick. Um, so that was, or maybe they got it back at a later point, but very interesting trade. I guess with the picks that were taken, they come out on top, but maybe ignore who was taken in those picks. Maybe they lose the deal by quite a lot.
Yeah, it's always insane how like the least notable part of a trade sometimes ends up being like the part that you're like, damn, I can't live without him. Like he was like this awesome guy I got. I know there was some conversation in the chat about that with like some of those like Acuna and Tucker blockbusters, like some of those smaller guys in the deals, like Seth Lugo was like had an awesome year, just randomly out of nowhere, and like Cutter Crawford's been solid, just like guys like that. So um, yeah, certainly fun to see, but yeah, good to see John Kenzie know how kind of relevant again. Who'd they play on the Guardians AAA team?
So I was watching the Woo Sox take on the Guardian AAA team, the Columbus Clippers.
Ooh, so that means you got to see Bobby Dahlbeck, right? Was
I saw
he?
Bobby Dahlbeck. He drew a walk. I saw well last so I just beautiful stadium, amazing food. I like it a lot there. I went last year for the first time and saw David Hamilton light it up, and now he's kind of lighting it up for EBO. Um, and yeah, now I saw John Kenzie Noel. Yeah, the Red Sox had Chase Meadroth lead off, who looked pretty solid out there. No pitchers really to write home about. Um, yeah, that's about it. Very hot day.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I went for a walk in Charlotte, and I was like, nope, I'm not staying out here too long. Went right back to the air conditioning.
Yeah. But yeah, we've talked about the that old trade. Why don't we talk about a trade that happened this week? And this one had a lot of discourse in the chat. You traded Ben Rice to Alex for a second.
Yeah, look, I think Ben Rice is an interesting prospect. There are a couple of people on Twitter, fantasy analysts, who like are absolutely in love with him. I saw one fantasy analyst, Eric Cross, who was one of the old like Fantrax guys, has Ben Rice as one of his top 50 prospects. I'm worried a little bit about the contact skills, but I do think the power's there, especially as a left-handed hitter with a short porch. And Rizzo landed on the 60-day IL. So, from Alex's perspective, it's like, hey, right, probably get a guy who's going to play every day versus right-handers for the foreseeable future, has a potential to kind of take that job over full time if he hits well. Um, and he's also catcher eligible, which is nice for Alex right now because Luis Campusano just landed on the IL. So, like, I don't think this is. I know a lot of people are giving him flack for the deal, but like he got a 25-year-old catcher slash first baseman with some hype, who's major league ready, and can maybe make a bit of an impact. And with the number of picks that Alex has, right, he has what looks like it's going to be three lottery first round picks this year, not to mention a bunch of second round picks. I think he might have a couple first round picks next year as well. Like, he can afford to give up a second round pick, especially too with how deep his farm is, and he needs major league ready talent. He got some here. For me, I mean, I have Adley, Freddie Freeman, Pete Alonso, and Josh Naylor between catcher and first base. I don't need Ben Rice, so
Yeah. You had picked up Ben Rice 3 days before you made this trade. Um, you know me,
circumstances change.
you know how I really like to get on you for trades like this. I think this one is mostly fine for all the reasons you laid out. Kind of the same reasons that I traded for Gregory Santos a couple days after you picked him up. And granted, that did not work out well for me. I cut Gregory Santos after about a month. But I feel like it's the type of thing, just like with Gregory Santos, Ben Rice's value is appreciably higher than it was when you picked him up. And while I feel like maybe a third would have been a lot more fair than a second, I don't hate this as much as I normally would.
That's exactly it, right? If Ben Rice did not get called up to the majors and Rizzo did not land on the 60-day IL, 60 key, right? So he's going to be out for 2 months. Ben Rice doesn't have this value, but the fact that there's and he's probably someone I just would have stashed in the minors and kind of kept there for a while to kind of see what was up. But yeah, the fact that he came up really boosted the value. So I mean, so sometimes, yeah, I don't have a problem trading for a guy who somebody else just picked up recently if you have a good reason for doing it. And I think there is a good reason here. And as a matter of fact, I've made a couple offers recently on somebody that a team just picked up because I thought it made sense for me to go after that player. So I'm not opposed to doing it the other way either. I think if you like a guy, go get him.
Yeah, when are you going to make your offer on Austin Voth, by the way?
Austin Voth. Yeah, he's an Oriole legend, but not an Oriole legend I would like to be rostering. He's all yours, buddy.
Well, at least until presumably before the time the show goes up. But either way, not the worst trade in the world. And Ben Rice, since being in the majors, is hitting 214 with a slugging percentage of 214.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll say is I was a bit encouraged that he got the start against Chris Sale the other day. Maybe it'll let him play a little more against lefties. Although shout out to Yuki for calling that the Yankees would go and get JD Davis. And maybe he's just his platoon partner, but we'll see.
We'll see. But yeah, would we like to get into these matchups, or is there anything we want to discuss first?
No, let's get into these matchups. Kind of breaking news. Edwin Diaz tossed before coming in the game in the ninth for sticky stuff.
Mm.
Ah,
So I imagine Ruthvik's going to be without him for this coming week.
yeah. I guess he could drop him to suspended list. Although obviously there's a whole appeals process, right? But yeah, wow. Um, I don't know who plays him this week, but that could be.
He's got Alex this coming week. Alex is not a particularly savvy team, so it shouldn't make much of a difference, um but very interesting indeed. Alex, yeah, has 20 saves all season, which is still 5 times as many as Erik.
Yeah, although a lot of that was Emmanuel Cosse, who's now gone, and he did cut Jalen Beeks to make room for Ben Rice. Not that I really think Jalen Beeks was someone you really trust. As a matter of fact, he blew a save today. Poor Kyle Freeland. He had such a great start. His first start off the IL, and then Jalen Beeks just ruined it. But it's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, that is how it goes.
Speaking of it's how it goes
In
sometimes.
fact, it looks like 19 of Alex's 20 saves are Emmanuel Clase.
19.
That's what I'm seeing. I can fact check that um while um while we continue with this, but I believe 19 of Alex's 20 saves are Class A.
Yeah, please do fact check. That is, we want to be as accurate of a podcast as possible. It's what the viewers have come to expect from us, or the
That is
listeners,
what
I guess, right? We're a podcast; they don't view. Um, but yeah. Let's dive into these matchups here. I really want to talk about the big upset of the week first. How about Yuki's team? Um,
what about Yuki's team? Yeah.
they're so last 3 weeks, right? Big win over EBO. I know they lost or he lost to you last week, but it was a close matchup. Did come down to the last day. And then he just like dominated Andrew this week. Offensively, just kind of out of nowhere. Just so he had 24 doubles, which actually I want to check if that's a record for him. Um, I would not be surprised if it was. I know the runs is not a record. Um, 57. I mean, that's awesome. 15 homers, 42 ribbies, 10 steals, 364 OBP. I mean, that's great. And it wasn't just the offense. He had 8 saves, which was enough to win that category. 316 ERA, 112 whip. The 24 doubles is not a record. He has hit 27 before against you, 2018, week 12. Um, but I mean, just a great week overall for him. And Andrew didn't even have that bad of a week. Like 14 homers, 44 ribbies, 15 doubles, 10 steals, all very solid. And then he had 89 strikeouts, 8 quality starts, 4 saves, a 368 ERA and a 113 whip. Great game for him too. Just I mean, just Yuki was on another level this week. What can you do?
Yeah, so that's 3 weeks in a row that Yuki's looked really solid. He's going to be 5-7-1. He plays Conor next week, so it's likely 6-7-1, although he has lost to Conor already this season, so you never know.
You
By the
never know
way,
with
yeah,
Connor. I learned that
you
the
never
hard
know with Conor. That's true. By the way, 19 of Alex's 20 saves have come from Class A. The 20th was just back last week in week 12. It was Alex Vesia.
way. Oh, great stream. He's been doing well recently.
He has Andrews rostering him now. But yes, tremendous week for Yuki. Um, yeah, frustrating week for Andrew. He was in it on Sunday, but just had to have a lot go right that did not. Um, as far as Yuki's team goes, really solid hitting week for some guys like Chas McCormick. Uh, good week for not Dan Swanson. Good week for Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Um, good week for Jacob Young with a 381 on base percentage. Um, good pitching week all around. Jacob Irvin had one fantastic start and one not so good start. Um, uh, good performance from Hunter Brown, who has now made six consecutive quality starts. So look at Hunter Brown go. A good week out of the bullpen for Luke Weaver. A good week out of the bullpen for Fernando Cruz with a couple of holds. Uh, fantastic job, Kenley Jansen. Eight saves for Yuki. Uh, I'd consider giving Kenley Jansen matchup MVP in a weaker week, but the week Bryce Harper had was just kind of undeniable. It's got to be him. Three homers, seven runs, three doubles, 41 on base. So yeah, good for him.
Yeah, good for Bryce, good for Yuki. You think Yuki might kind of ever take Jake here and maybe kind of get onto the periphery of the playoff hunt?
We'll see. I mean, his team has undeniably looked better than Jake's team for the past month.
Yeah.
Um, is that something that I expect to continue the rest of the season? I don't know, but in the recent past, yes.
Yeah. You want to transition over to Jake here, or is there anything else you want to say about Yuki v Andrew first?
No, let's transition over to Jake. He had, at least hitting wise, his best week in a little bit. Um, 47 runs, 48 RBI, definitely respectable. 24 doubles, great week. 14 homers, decent. Um, it's yeah, just that you had an extremely good week, and his pitching kind of, he only managed to find six starts, and kind of punted this week a little bit with some of the ad drops.
Yeah, it was pretty. So I'll give him credit where credit's due because I didn't expect him to come back and win three categories. But like you could tell from the ads that he made after the first part of the week, it was clear like he picked up James Paxton to make that Monday start against the White Sox, right? Monday meaning tomorrow. Like I don't think he really expected himself to kind of find his way back into this. Um, but yeah, I mean, my team just went on a tear, both pitching and hitting. I mean, 15 homers, 45 ribbies, 60 runs, like 19 doubles, eight steals, 367 OBP, all fantastic. Now on the pitching side, 84 strikeouts, eight quality starts, seven holds, three saves, 304 ERA, 0.92 whip. Would have looked a lot better if my dumbass didn't stream zero innings, four earned by Jacob Webb in that wild 14-11 Orioles game a couple of days ago. But yeah, I will take this week every time. I don't know where the hell this was last week when I was playing Connor, but nice for my team to kind of get back on track here. Um, as I'm now back in position for a playoff spot with the Andrew loss. So watch out, y'all. I'm on the comeback trail, baby.
Yeah, no, welcome back. Yeah, you're 7-5-1 now. Good hitting week all around. Good week for Adley. Good week for Altuve. Good week for Freeman. Very good week for Josh Naylor. Driving 8 runs, scoring seven, three homers. Good on base percentage for him as well. He's probably runner-up for matchup MVP. Good week for Pete Alonso. Looking at the pitching side, you had some really good performances. Nestor Cortez dominated two starts. Uh, really, uh, yeah, Max Fried, um, one great start and one pretty good paddock. Decent start for Marcus Stroman. Great week out of the pen for Brian Abreu. Matchup MVP though has got to be Sonny Gray. Two quality starts and an 0.55 whip and 12 strikeouts too. Just really, you put together a really solid pitching week, and a lot of it was thanks to Sonny Gray.
Yeah, no, Sonny Gray's been great. I mean, what a great acquisition. I very much thank you for deciding to trade me Sonny Gray. Was perfect through 6 and 2/3 today before giving up the home run to I forget who now, but yeah, he was awesome. Also shout out Adley. The numbers don't give him the kind of credit. It's weird that he did this without getting a homer or an RBI. But he reached base in 10 straight at bats uh, this week at one point. Like it's just insane. But somehow they're not driving a run or an RBI despite that. So well deserved there. Um, Also, just one other side, great to see Cedric Mullins is really starting to heat back up with some of my outfield injuries. I mean, if I'm to go anywhere, I desperately need him to um, kind of be the Cedric Mullins that I know he can be. So very excited for that. But I mean, I do want to talk about Jake's team a little bit here. I mean, I feel like we say the same thing every week, so I'm not going to go into that. But I was looking through his record recently, and it is wild to me. So in his last eight, he has not won a game in a month. And over his last eight, he is 2-4-2. He's got two wins over Conor and Alex and Zach. Um, and then he has a tie to Ruthvik and a tie to Anthony, but otherwise it's a loss to me, a loss or two losses to me, a loss to EBO, and a loss to Andrew. I mean, this is just um it's kind of wild. He has four four wins on the 5 wins on the year. Um and other than a win over you week 3, it's just two Daniel and Matt wins, a Connor win, and an Alex and Zach win. I mean, who would have seen this coming at the beginning of the year? Uh, I know he's expressed interest in selling some of these short-term veterans, and I am curious to see um, how that works out for him. If he can sell some of these guys off.
We will see. One last thing I want to say about Jake's team. Since the trade, Michael Bush has 188 WRC plus, so pretty solid get for Jake there.
Yeah, no, good for him with that. I know I've expressed some skepticism over Michael Bush, so good for Jake.
Yeah,
Want
let's
the
move on here. There were two matchups that were kind of decided on the final day. Which one do we want to go to first?
um can we talk about this EVO and Erik tie? It was a little anticlimactic on the last day. I will like kind of like we all knew it was going to come down to runs. And Erik made it close. At one point, he was down by a run. If he would have tied or won runs, he would have won it. But ultimately, uh, he was not able to take over runs. So he and EVO tied. Kind of shout out to EVO here. So solid offensive week. The pitching was not there. 6.13 ERA and a 158 whip, but they were able to pull together the bullpen categories and just enough on the hitting to pull out a tie. Erik had a really good hitting week besides a 301 OBP. Kind of an unusually low quality start number for him with four, but 80 strikeouts, 329 ERA, 110 whip are all in line with him. And interesting to see that he did a little bit of Holt streaming, which I feel like we don't see a ton from him usually, but he was able to rack up 3 holds. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, three holds for Erik after not having very many going into the week. Um, yeah, EBO had some great hitting. Erik had some decent hitting. Good hitting. Not as good as EBO's though. Erik had some very good pitching, and EBO's pitching just absolutely shit the bed. Um, Carlos Rodon was pretty terrible. Imanaga was, Imanaga gave up 10 earned runs, so you're not really going to win pitching categories after that. But Robert Suarez blowing it didn't help either. Um, they had some good pitching performances though, or some hitting performances though from CJ Abrams and Gunnar Henderson especially. 9 runs, 4 steals. Riley Green had a good week. Looking at Eric's team though, um, uh, Shohei Ohtani's got to be matchup MVP just for the stupidly insanely good matchup he had. 567 on base, 11 RBI, 4 homers, 8 runs. Also stole a base for good measure. Um, but really good performances from Royce Lewis. Decent week for Ozuna. Uh, Good week for Jock Peterson when he was in this lineup. And then pitching wise, only got the 4 quality starts, but one of them was a really good Hunter Green performance with 9 Ks. One of them was a really good Tyler Glasnow performance with 10 Ks. And then, yeah, 2 holds from Joe Jimenez, who I have unsuccessfully streamed 3 times this year. Meanwhile, Erik uh, just picks him up on this right after I cut him and runs wild with him. Yeah, good week for both of these teams, I would say. But the tie drops Erik into a 3-way tie for first place with me and Anthony, which he is ahead on the tiebreaker, though.
He's what with the tiebreaker, sorry.
He's ahead on the tiebreaker.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I think you summed it up nicely. I think Eric's kind of rolling here. Kind of ran into a tough matchup with EBO, but still, put up a solid tie here. And ditto with EBO, impressive that they were able to kind of go toe to toe with Erik. We called Erik the top team, and Zane certainly delivered to keep it close here. I guess any concern with EBO's pitching overall after this week, or you think just kind of a blip?
I think it's probably just a blip. I'm not worried. And Imanog isn't not, I don't think he's going to go back to his April levels, but I think he's going to certainly be very fine. I think Rodon was maybe, um, uh, he's not going to be like a 3.2 ERA guy the rest of the year, but he's not going to blow up like this every start. I think they're fine.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you're right. There's probably a little bit of regression for the Redomes of the world and the Imanagas. I am a little concerned about Brian Wu. Um, I think that elbow is kind of a ticking time bomb. Um, but yeah, I think the rest of it is really solid. Um, and yeah, I'm not concerned. I think this is just a blip.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. Um, Get anything else on these two teams, by the way, as EBO drops to 8-4-1?
No, no. I think we summed it up.
All right, but yeah, so that was EBO and Eric's tie. Why don't we talk about the other matchup that was decided on Sunday? And that was my matchup versus Ruthvik. Ended up 7-3-2. A lot of drama. I was very intently watching Alec Marsh on my phone uh while Myles Straw was rallying the Columbus Clippers. Very, very close matchup all week, but I was able to do just enough uh, on Sunday, or rather, avoid having enough bad things happen to me on Sunday.
Yeah, so this is kind of wild. Alec Marsh. So if Alec Marsh would have gotten a quality start, which he came 1 out away from doing, you and Ruthvik would have been tied going into this Mets game. They would have been 6-6. And then in this Mets game, Ruthvik would have had a narrow ERA lead. Daniel Nunez came in and he kind of blew it. He gave up 2 runs. Now, I'm assuming Ruthvik would have benched Nunez knowing that, hey, like, there's nothing he could have gained by starting him. Um, So if he had done that, it still would have been 6-6. But you got a late game steal from Francisco Lindor. So had Marsh gotten that quality start and Ruthvik bench Nunez, you would have won this one 6-5-1 instead. Um, Huge for the tiebreaker. Um, um, that you're able to get some of these extra categories. I don't think you played a second time yet. This was your first matchup, right?
Yeah, this was our first time facing each other.
Okay, yeah. So huge for potential tiebreaker down the road that you were able to win 7-3-2 instead of 6-5-1. Uh,
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah, but great week for you offensively. 50 runs, 15 doubles, 21 homers, 56 ribbies, a 362 OBP. Decent week pitching, nothing to write home about, but you were able to win ERA and whip narrowly and high quality starts. But the offense kind of carried you here. It was more than enough for you to pull out a 7-3-2 victory.
Yeah, certainly. So let me just start out here by saying the thing I'm gonna say every week. It's that none of this matters. It matters how my guys hit in September. It doesn't matter how they hit this week. It matters how they hit in September. That being said, I had a great hitting week. A lot of things to be proud of there. Um, Fantastic week for Yandy Diaz getting back on track. Great week for Alec Boehm getting back on track. Aaron Judge was very good. Brendan Donovan drove in 8 runs. Awesome week for him. Awesome week for last week's MVP Jackson Merrill. Mark Canna had a 409 on base percentage in my lineup. Kevin Pillar went 0 for 6, but stole a base, which ended up being very important. Match of MVP, though, has got to be Brandon Nimmo, though, who did kind of all the above. Uh, Drove in 8 runs, hit 4 homers, scored 9 times, 444 on base. So kind of having one of Ruthvik's Mets guys torture him all week must have been very frustrating for him. He slugged 840 this week. So awesome week for Brandon Nimmo. Pitching side, just very miserable. I was off to a horrible start uh until Mitch Keller kind of turned it around with 7 shutout innings against the Reds. I was not expecting to win either ERA or WHIP um early this week. So I'm very glad that I did. Um and kind of on Sunday there was, and I need to keep reminding myself of this lesson that I've been learning all year, but to trust my guys. Um Uh, yeah, Ruthvik had 3 starts today. I had Kikuchi and Framber. Kikuchi with an okay matchup, Framber with a not good matchup. I decided last minute to start Kikuchi. He started earlier. Kind of see how that goes. Um, I decided to bench Framber. Kikuchi was terrible. Um, and he got me some strikeouts, but he was pretty terrible. Got pulled because of a rain delay, so the damage was kind of limited. And Framber, got a quality start. Would have made this a 8-3-1 victory instead of a 7-3-2 victory. He pitched great on my bench. So, I gotta trust my guys. We'll see if this is a lesson that I learn for next time, but I did not learn it this time. Uh, Jeff Hoffman gave up a run in a non-hold situation that I thought was the death of my team. Um, Overall, though, yeah, it's 7-3-2 win for me. Ruthvik, not a very good hitting week. Pitching, I wouldn't say did particularly well either, although did enough to win 3 categories there. Had some good performances from, well, Logan Webb's first start was great, even if his second one was terrible. And uh, a good start from Seth Lugo again. Um, Hitting wise, Stephen Kwan was fantastic. He's been, uh, I mean, his batting average this season is 390. So there you go. And a great week for Francisco Alvarez too. A lot of Mets in this matchup. I've got 3 in my lineup. He's got one plus 1 or 2 of their relievers. Um, very Metsy week, but I came out on top.
Yeah, surprised he didn't give matchup MVP to Aaron Judge to help him feel better about getting accidentally hit by a pitch by the Orioles. He spent quite a
Man,
bit of time.
I'm just glad he's okay. Um, you know.
It was kind of bad when he left the game and they were like, oh, we sent him to the hospital to get X-rays and all that stuff. And I thought it was going to be one of those. Oh, he's going to land on the IL, and then he ended up only missing the game.
Yeah, he homered on Saturday, so
Yeah, that he did. I swear it's been like Soto walks and then he gets on base. Like I feel like it's just been the story of like every single game this year. At least like once it happens, and it's annoying. Also, I did love that this does kind of remind me. Michael Kay today in the Yankees broadcast called the Braves offense mid, and then the Braves went out and beat the Yankees, and I think the Yankees scored like 1 run the entire game. And I thought that was pretty hilarious.
did that 60-year-old man really use the word mid?
Yeah, he actually used the word mid. That was the best part too.
Man.
Um,
Uh,
yeah.
Top stories. Yankees broadcaster Michael Kay perfectly uses internet slang to describe Braves offense. So, yeah. And then
I mean,
the
if
following
they're going to
article,
allow,
Yankees broadcaster's disrespect for Braves offense is a weak attempt to rile up fans.
I mean, look, man, if they're going to give up a home run to Jarek Kelenic, like, I mean, in fact, I think Jarek Kelenic himself drove in more runs than the Yankees scored all day.
Man,
Like, when that happens, that's just on you. That's just your team sucks ass. Like, I'm sorry. Um,
does someone own Kelenic currently?
I don't think so. He low key is not the worst
Erik owns
pickup.
him and he's red hot.
Yeah. I was just thinking, so he's leading off now. They're kind of doing something for a while where like Michael Harris was leading off against righties and Ozzy Albies was leading off against lefties, and then Harris landed on the IL, and now it's like Kelenic is leading off most games. And it's kind of working. I'm not going to pretend this is like he's going to pan out into something like elite or anything, but like for what he's going to get paid over the next like 5 years, like they certainly could get worse. So um, maybe a shrewd move by the Braves. I don't know.
He's one spot ahead of George Springer in the player rater.
Hey, did you see George Springer has the worst OPS of any qualified hitter? So maybe that's not something that.
He's been good lately, at least. Kellenic has. I now that I'm not burdened by him.
No, you're just burdened by Jeff McNeil, but that's another story.
All right, what matchup are we talking about next?
Oh my God. Let's there's two left. Neither were particularly notable. Let's talk about Anthony. That's a playoff team. He beat Conor 9-3. Where the hell was this Conor performance last week when like I needed him to just shit the bed? Um, Conor did not pitch very well. He had or hit the play very well. He had 19 doubles. He won that category. 3 saves and 3 holds is fine, but everything else was just pretty bad across the board. Anthony had a great offensive week. This really felt like a great offensive week overall for a lot of teams. Anthony had 18 homers, 52 ribbies, 8 steals, 357 OVP. Um, the pitching great stats don't wow you, but he did get 7 quality starts and 73 strikeouts. He'll certainly take that. Um, Great week for Anthony. As he moves to 8-3-2 and back in a tie for first place. Who would have seen this coming at the
Yeah,
start of the season?
yeah, 8 weeks to go in the regular season. 7 weeks, 8 weeks to go. Anthony is, yeah, still in first place in a tie. Great week for him. Yeah, love the offensive numbers there. Yeah, pitching was good, not great, I would say. Although Paul Skeens was great. That is undeniable. As was Bailey Ober, who pitched a complete game 10K shutout on Saturday. Um, uh, Pitching wise or hitting wise, though, um, good week for Ryan Mountcastle. Good week for Josh H. Smith. Good week for Sean Murphy. Yeah, not a lot of super standout performances though. So I'll give it to Skeens, even though the hitting was better on the whole than the pitching was. Paul Skeens was just so dominant.
Yeah, he's insane. I saw a comparison on Twitter from his like first however many starts he's made to the same number of starts that Strasburg made to start his career, and the numbers are basically identical.
That's insane.
I know. But yeah, I mean, I think you kind of summed up how I felt about Anthony's team last week, or how I compared them, right? I was like, it's a very good team, but it's kind of like the Brewers, in which there's not really one standout. It's just a bunch of really solid contributors who work well together, and I think it's pretty much what Anthony's team's doing right now.
Yeah, speaking of Brewers standouts, very solid start for Freddie Peralta this week. 6 innings, 8 Ks, no earned runs, just 3 hits. And Willie Adames as well. I had a 387 OBP this week.
Yeah, man, what a trade for him to go get Willie Adames for Xander Bogaerts in the offseason. I think one of those underrated trades that might get some most lopsided trade of the offseason votes if Adames keeps this up and Bogaerts continues to sit on the IL.
And yeah, sitting on the AL for my team.
Is there any timeline for him to come back? I've like not heard a word about Xander Bogaerts in quite some time.
I have not really been paying attention, but it's not great.
Yeah, he imagine if the Padres were like, no, we're not gonna pay Bogaerts this money. And we're not gonna pay and they didn't pay you Darvish until he was 42. And they're like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna put all that money into Juan Soto.
Yeah, where would they be?
Yeah, I mean Machado, Soto, and Tatis for the next 5 years. Maybe Machado's kind of starting to show some age here, but Tatis and Soto in the middle of that lineup for the next 10 years, and Christ, that would have been a lot of fun. But instead, we're stuck with Soto and Judge. Um, hope to God he doesn't re-sign with the Yankees. Just go suffer on the Mets. Like that sounds perfect.
Well, we'll see. Um, I don't know if I could handle having another Mets bat in my lineup.
Oh
Um,
God, yeah, I guess what you have Lindor and Nimmo and Jeff McNeil. Uh,
yeah,
you might have to cut Nimmo and Lindor. Just go with the 1-2 McNeil Soto punch.
I think I might. That'd be a great, a great one too. Let's talk about this last matchup here. Um, you know, the jury won 3 categories and tied two. They kept it decently close. If they had streamed a couple more starts, they could have maybe flipped strikeouts. But Alex had a very good pitching week. Not in terms of strikeouts, but in terms of just about well, in terms of rate stats, in terms of quality starts. I don't know how it's possibly struck out as few as he did with that many uh, quality starts, but
He has some lower strikeout pitchers. Like Christopher Sanchez pitched 7 shutout innings today, but only had 4 strikeouts. Like, um, just kind of some weird guys like that. I don't think Matt Waldron's been racking up the Ks that much. Ronel
he's good
Blanco at
though.
yeah, oh, he's great. I think he's cool because it's not like a straight knuckleballer, but he's got like the knuckleball in his arsenal that he could just throw with the like normal shit. Um, and imagine it's already hard enough, right, to go from like facing like normal pitchers 161 games a year and then having to have a full day with the knuckleball. But imagine like just being able to whip that out in the middle of an at bat, like that's just wild.
Imagine being able to whip it out. I, I agree. But yeah, Matt Waldron is a ton of fun to watch. Absolutely. Um, Pitching wise, I will give matchup MVP to Christopher Sanchez. Despite the lack of strikeouts, he went 14 innings, only allowed a run, had two quality starts in there. Good start for Tobias Myers. Good start for Ronald Blanco. Jonathan Cannon made one very good start and one very bad start. Um, 8 2/3 shutout innings on on Tuesday, and then 1 inning, 5 earned on Sunday. Um, Good start for the Ass Man. Good start for Logan Gilbert. Hitting wise, not a lot to be proud of for either team really. Rough week for Tyler Freeman, 0 for 14. Rough week for Joe Adell, 1 for 14. Um, Rafael Devers had a rough time. And then for the jury, um, not a lot to be happy about except for Josh Lowe, who was good. So there's that. Yeah, they dropped to 0-10-2. They used 4 out of 8 ads. Um, Mark Vientos is hitting all right. Um, they're going to win one of these. They're not going to go for the season, but this could have been one of their better chances.
I hope for their sake they win one. I don't even know if they own their first round pick.
Oh, Jesus.
I
Oh,
think
no.
Alex.
Yeah, because I think I owned it and sent it away. And
No, 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 no. You sent away their 2026 first. Alec. No, they own their 2025 first, along with Erik and mine. 6 of the 12 first round picks are owned by Alex and Zach and Daniel and Matt,
oh man.
uh, including 4 of the 6 current lottery picks are owned by Alex and Zach and Daniel and Matt. With
Yeah. I don't
um,
know if that'll be the case come draft day, but yeah, this team needs to keep their pick.
yeah, they very desperately do. I think that sums it up for the matchups, unless there's anything else you want to talk about.
No, let's get into it. Happy Toxic Week. Let me be the
Happy
first to
talks.
say.
Oh, God, this is I'm not looking forward to our group chats or our DMs this week, which probably just going to be 90% of me like just angrily chatting in there and you just ignoring it because you don't want to deal with my toxicity, which I don't blame you. Um,
It is that week.
it really is. Our uh the way we go about toxic week always cracks me up.
Do
Um
any other rivalries in this league have a name?
uh no, I don't think so.
A
How do
lot
we
of
eliminate
Most hockey
toxic?
rivalries have names. Hockey is yeah, the hockey leagues. I mean, of course, we've got the Pink House Divided. We've got the Battle of Colorado or whatever they call it over there. There,
I guess you call you versus Erik the league's best rivalry or something like that.
I think it still is, and I mean, there's not.
Mm.
I mean, we've split 3 years in a row, and we've um played in the playoffs we've faced off in the playoffs 2 of those 3 years and split those two matchups. Um, I think, and granted, I'm not just kind of shitting on his team anymore because that turned out badly for me, but um, you know, I think it's a much more respectful rivalry than it was in 2021, but I think it's the best one.
That is fair. I feel like some of these rivalries lost to like in 20 like 18, like some of the earlier, some of these rivalries had like a real juice to them. Remember like me versus EBO there for a while, like when Max was in the league, just like some insane like just like smack talk and some of these rivalries. are more fun now, but lacks some of that like just random like just shit talk that would come out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
I'm
think yes, the league has been um and maybe I think maybe you versus Jake is kind of the exception to that, but the league has been very respectful lately, should I say.
a little too much for my liking. Yeah, I feel like Jake and I get in it a little bit. I feel like I try to provoke you, but you just never really go for it. You know,
Yeah, I don't let it happen.
but
I don't
we do get toxic, so it makes up for it.
it gets toxic.
But I feel like EVO kind of rising back to relevance might kind of bring that back up a bit. I feel like there's been a little more beefing with Zane's team than there has been in previous years, just because he's actually kind of relevant and there are more matchups I want him to lose. It's weird. Last year, I desperately needed him to beat Jake late in the season, which he did to give me the one seed in the playoffs. And now they play each other next week. So there's our transition to one of the matchups to watch. And it's the opposite. I want Jake to win uh, because I need EBO to start to fall down the standings. And at this point, I have the tiebreaker over Jake. And like, I don't really think he's going anywhere this year. And even Jake's kind of seems to have admitted that. So to bring it full circle to you talking about me versus Jake having a little bit of that energy, I think Jake's kind of just like been doesn't really have it this year. Doesn't have that kind of edge because his team just so banged up. So uh yeah, man. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I have to like go fight someone or something. I don't know. But everybody's too respectful now. Let's get some smack talking
Yeah,
here.
we gotta name some rivalries.
We
I
do.
think I think yeah, hockey rivalries are kind of toxic. If Greg anytime Greg is losing a matchup, it becomes the most toxic thing ever.
And that's what I like. The hockey league, it's almost like the edge in the baseball league left the baseball league and decided to join the hockey league. I mean, it makes sense, right? They literally had a podcast called "Who Cares You Suck," um, and if that's not indicative of that league having a bit of an edge, and then I don't know what is. And you should keep this in here, by the way. You shouldn't edit this out, so everybody knows exactly what I'm thinking about how much edge our league has.
Yeah, no, we need to bring back some disrespect. I agree. I think your team is stupid. Yeah, I think we just need to name more rivalries. We've got Toxic Week. I think we need to name some more rivalries. But yes, week 14, there's Toxic Week. There is Jake versus EBO. I think the winner of matchup to watch though has got to be Erik versus Anthony, though. They're both in that three-way tie for first. One of these teams will no longer be in first, unless I suppose they tie and I lose, in which case it'll be the two of them tied for first. Although maybe EBO will pass both of them. I don't know. Either way, they're both currently tied for first, and it's exciting.
Yeah, I will say too. I think you versus me. I mean, obviously it's toxic league, but I think it's going to be interesting regardless because I mean, if you're looking from a pure standings perspective, right? You are a game and a half ahead of me. So I can't jump ahead of you in the standings, but I could certainly make it closer. And you know, if I beat you, it'd only be a half game back. If you beat me, I think I'd have a really hard time pulling ahead of you in the standings by the end of the year. But I also, you know, in terms of me kind of jumping back up to get the one seed, right? If I was to beat you and one of Erik and Anthony were to lose, um, you know, I think I right now after this week I'm gonna be a game and a half back of first place, but if I would probably would still be a game and a half back because one of assuming one of Erik or Anthony wins outright, but like in terms of getting the bye, I'd be a lot closer, man. I might be like a game back or a half game back at a bye. So, and I do have a tiebreaker over Erik. I don't over Anthony, so maybe in a strange way I have to root for Erik. Or sorry, yeah, root for Erik this week. But yeah, that's that one will be interesting. I think it's a huge test for your team too. Um,
Yeah,
you've had
yeah.
some impressive wins, but can you knock me off twice? I don't think you've ever done that in a season.
I almost certainly have not. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, let's shall we pick them?
I think we shall pick them. Before we pick them, let's go over how we did last week. Uh, we both picked Alex to win. We were right about that. We both picked Anthony to win. We were right about that. We both picked Q to win. We were right about that. I picked Erik. You picked EBO. They tied. So we were both half right about that. We both picked Andrew to beat Yuki. We were both wrong. I picked Jake to win. You picked me to win. I think deep down I knew I was going to win, but I couldn't bear to pick myself in case shit hit the fan. So yeah. I think we're tied now. I've stopped doing the math, but I think we're basically tied now. Um, in the pick 'em.
We'll find out at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's I'll calculate it one of these days. Been a bit lazy. Uh, who's gonna pick first then? Stick with me or
Yeah, we can stick with you for now since I think you might still have half a game.
yeah, I either have half a game or we're tied. I just don't know which one it is. So okay, that's fine. I will pick Andrew to beat Daniel and Matt. He's got to bounce back this week. I'll pick Jay. No, I'm gonna come back to that one. I will pick Ruthvik to beat Alex. I'll pick Yuki to beat Conor. Hold on, he will. I guarantee you perform worse this week because he'll play down to his competition. I will pick EBO to beat Jake. I will pick Erik to beat Anthony, and I'm gonna obviously pick you to beat me. I don't think it's gonna be particularly close. I wouldn't be surprised if you 12 me.
Oh boy. Um, all right, so those are your picks. I am going to pick Andrew to beat Daniel and Matt. I'm going to pick EBO to beat Jake. I think Ruthvik will beat Alex. I think Erik will beat Anthony as well. I, Yuki plays the level of his opponents. We've been saying it all year. Andrew disrespected that notion, so I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and say that Conor will beat Yuki. Um,
Ooh, okay, I like that.
and, you know, I've only picked myself to beat you one time ever, and I was correct. So I'm going to roll with that and pick myself to beat you again.
Ooh, okay.
Let's get some spice.
Let's get some spice. Yeah, I feel like last time we played, I picked myself to win, and that was not correct. I got a little too confident. And this time I've learned my lesson. Never be confident when it comes to camp.
Interesting. All right. So um, that's our week 14 pick them. We're gonna be back next week um for yet another edition. I know we're gonna take a couple weeks off in the middle of the summer, but we should be back at least the next two. Um, gonna be a lot of fun. Um, and yeah, some uh, really tight standings here, and I think we just know that we're gonna have to get very familiar with the tiebreakers by the end of the season, just like we were in hockey.
Yeah, it's actually kind of insane. I feel like in previous years, there's been like tiebreaker scenarios, but it's been like the same three teams like battling for three, four, and five. And then there's like kind of a battle for six, but not really. And then one and two is like kind of a tiebreaker battle, but like it's not like I mean, this is just like consistent. Like um every week there's a new permutation of who's tied with each other. Nobody's really run away with this. I, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's stressful as hell, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if 2 weeks from now we're talking about entirely different seeding scenarios and like one of the teams who's like the top seed right now might drop down to like six, or something like that. So
Yeah, we shall see. I hope it's not me. Um,
doubt
you
it.
never
It
know.
better be. I'm not. I will feel a little more comfortable about my position if I were to beat you, but if I don't, I'm still operating under the assumption I'm not going to make the playoffs.
I think that's a bit insane, um, but we'll see. It would be very cool if you missed the playoffs. And if I beat you here, that would be a big blow to that.
Yeah, if I were to miss the playoffs, I will burn this league to the ground.
Oh boy, we can only be so lucky. Well, anyway, we'll see you next week, and send some rivalry names in the chat. We wanna hear them. We wanna bring some toxicity back into the league.
Yeah, oh man, yeah, I will definitely be spending all my free time brainstorming some names here.
Yeah.
Oh, before we go, you asked me to remind you about something, and that is the belts.
Oh yes, the belts. I almost forgot. For the first time in almost exactly 5 years, the belts were traded for each other. Anthony had held the loser's belt, and Conor had held the winner's belt, which he himself only had for the first time in 3 years. They have swapped belts this week after Anthony beat Conor. Um, and yeah, just an exciting moment.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. I thought this was going to be Brandon belt for a belt to be named later trade, but that belt swap works too.
And can we get a belt fact in the chat?
I love that. Here we go. Let's get a good belt fact in here. Career minor league baseball OBP leader since 2006. Brandon Belt is number one.
I don't think I've seen this one. That's fun.
I have not either. This one's new. I've not seen that picture of his muscles either. It's a strong player. I am
That's not
genuinely
Brandon Belt. I
surprised.
don't know who that is, but that does not look like Brandon Belt.
Yeah, it really doesn't. I am surprised that, as an aside, that nobody signed him to a major league contract this offseason. It's a damn shame.
All right. But yeah, that'll do it for this week. Yeah, thank you
Got
for reminding
Jack
me about.
Custis on this list. Orioles legend Jack Custis. Oh my goodness. Sorry, what a time to be alive.
Time to be alive where you can read this tweet.
I think we should end on that note.
I like it when they mad and we making they woods up. Yeah, he nice and he fine and he tall, but if I'm with him, I'm eventually finding flaws. What the heck it is? His smile and walk, he got experience and generous, he kind and soft. Sexy the way that he's sensitive. Jealousy don't ever get the best of him, thank God. Cause the way you know what I want, the way they wish I wouldn't fall, the way you save me from them doors. Maybe it's disrespectful. Baby, it's disrespectful. Maybe it's disrespectful.
This podcast is good.